go.
Fascinating. I still heard the sound. Welcome, everybody, and hello. So,
Howdy. Still having audio problems, I'm afraid.
well, easy does it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very happy that we have today you on your screens together with us here in the fantastic CRM Convo. And today we have a very special guest. We have Johannes Parensen with us from GMS. Johannes will shortly introduce himself a bit more into detail. I am very happy that we could win Johannes as our guest today. And unfortunately, I'm having some challenges with my sound, but this is the opportunity to test some new equipment. And coming to new equipment, we are in the middle of the topic, such as if you would have a problem with the gear you have with a service license agreement, you could call your service department or a technician. And then, surprise, you would set up a call, and then we have a typical case such as when the field service becomes the guardian angel and the helper in the moments of pain. I would like the audience to engage with us through our channels in LinkedIn, Facebook, and what we have handy for your utilization to place your questions, and feel free to do so. And the floor is yours, Johannes. I'm curious about what you do day by day and what you did before you joined GMS. Hello, Johannes.
Thanks, Ralph. Thanks for having me. You pronounced it actually correctly, Johannes Parensen. Sorry for the German name. I'm heading marketing and sales in GMS since 3 years, but before that, I was sort of on the on the customer side. Right now, we're providing software to service organizations. Before that, I was in selling and delivering services to key accounts, large enterprise organizations. It started that I sold the stuff, I sold the services, and then customers said that I had to deliver as well. So I did the project management, and then afterwards I ended up with a 100 staff strong field service organization. So I know a bit of all of the areas, and I like it. This is why 3 years ago I went to GMS, because then I have it every day now, digitizing service organizations.
Sounds cool. And curious as I am, and running around in the markets, I learned a bit about GMS up front, but I was very fascinated that you have some key differentiators which I identified for myself, such as, for instance, the opportunity that you have your own route optimization logic. Can you explain us a bit on that and give us a bit background why, not only from your perspective at working at GMS, but from the customer journey, service and especially field service is getting so extremely fascinating, so important, and so, let's say, key differentiating?
A couple of questions. I'll probably start with
pick one and go for it.
Let's save the one with let's save the one with the tour optimization for later.
Sure.
Very much into detail. You'll be challenging me. So differentiators, and maybe I'll just give a sentence on GMS. So we've been around for 30 years and focusing on field service management software. And we're more focused on I would say enterprise level, key enterprise level organizations. That's because we love to have bespoke service processes in very much automated. This is what we've done for the last 30 years, and this is what all of our developers and professional service guys love doing. And since I joined, because I still remember when I in my first job, I was sent out with the field service engineers. So what I did when I came here, I sent everybody out with the field service engineers, be it the students, and now the last thing what I did is I sent the marketing team out with an engineer, and we actually so the lesson learned was that before everybody says service is like the brand ambassador. It's in COVID times, service was visiting customers more than salespeople, so that's normal. But we actually perceive service different, field service different, because the field service engineers, we call them now the everyday superhero, because he's arriving at an unhappy customer, and he has to sort of fix the situation, and then his boss is actually expecting him to do some upsell on top. So it's this is.
This is also
new gadgets he needs to play. Boys and their toys.
That's honestly the challenging part of it's not only the sound check challenge, it's also get the camera setup redone, as the wrong button sets up surprises. But that is something why you said that it is important to get the people in the field, to make them touch and feel what the daily life of a field technician is, and from there on we continue.
Yeah, of course. And this is probably a bit the difference to many other software solutions, because I mean, if you're working in a call center, you're working with the software day in and out. But if you're an engineer, the software is just in the way of you doing your job. So this is why we actually say we're equipping superheroes, because they don't want to waste time on documentation. They don't want to waste time on finding and planning their day. We just do it for them so that they can focus on what they like best, which is helping their customers. This is a bit of the mind shift, and this is what we have been developing our software for the last years.
Which begs the question: what were they missing most? Of course, because you provided, but.
I mean, everybody had some field service engineers in their house fixing household equipment, heatings. So what you're expecting? First one is you're expecting that they come on time. So they need to have a perfectly planned day, without people in the back office spending days looking at looking at maps and so on. The second is that obviously, and they need to be competent, even though in many cases they haven't seen the equipment that they've been asked to repair, but they should at least appear competent. And they need to fix it at the first visit. The worst thing that you've always had engineers sort of suddenly you hear the door clicking and so, oh, he's gone. Hopefully he's coming back. This is not a good service experience. So you need to the first time fix is what everybody's expecting, and then this when the customer is happy. And then I think what we've learned, especially in the B2C environment, is that the field service is the best sales channel, because they're a trusted advisor for consumables, for replacements, for service contracts. They sell without selling, and they need we just provide the easy to use software that enables them doing it.
Mm-hmm. And what are the critical components of that part?
Yeah.
So the digital flow is you need to open a work order, somewhat coming either via portals, emails, phone, IoT, and then it's sort of finding the right engineer to fix the fault in time with the expected service level. So we call this a scheduling engine. Is then matching qualification to requirements, checking spare part availabilities, and sort of the time window available, and then planning the optimal tour for an engineer. Obviously not for today, because typically typical service levels is for tomorrow or the day after. So this is one key component, the whole scheduling and tour planning. The second, obviously, is that engineers are expecting easy to use apps, and I mean, you have the baby boomers, they prefer working with a laptop, and then you have generation X and Y apps, and so you need to have equipment, you need to have software that enables both of them. This is two key components, and third, very important at the moment, is that when everybody's talking about subscriptions, selling subscriptions, pricing subscriptions, what everybody's talking about, but you need to deliver it as well. And you don't want to browse through databases of customers and service contracts. It's not, the delivery needs to be automated. When is a maintenance visit due? What does it mean, a maintenance visit? What's included in the service contract? Does he get it all for free, or does he have to pay anything on top? All this is information that needs to be available throughout the service process.
Yeah. Now you said something quite interesting a bit earlier. So the field service representative, the technician, should at least appear knowledgeable, competent. Now, well, of course, they rather be, but not everybody can have seen all of the equipments that they are servicing and can have touched them outside of their training.
Yeah.
So this, to me, sounds like the perfect use case for augmented reality tools. How do you deal with making the service technician competent in real time, or possibly in close to real time?
And there's a couple of elements. There's a couple of elements to it. The first one is the preparation, because you need to prepare well, so that you have everything what you need. And this is typically spares. I'm coming from an industry where the engineers didn't have any spare parts in their boot, because they had their service order was pre-diagnosed, and the spare parts were sent according to the order. So the diagnostics, and this is where we're using AI as well, is we can, based on the fault description in relation to the product, we can really sort of tell the engineer what he should better take with him going on site. That's one thing, but obviously you'll always encounter issues on site which you've never seen before. It might even be a device which you've repaired many times. And in that case, you call it augmented reality, and the environments I've worked in, augmented reality would be great. It's just, I have a customer in Belgium, and in Belgium alone, he's got 4,000 different product types. If you were to sort of provide the information you needed for augmented reality, this is a lot of work to do. What our customers are typically working on the one hand is remote connection, remote service, like this remote service solution, so that the engineers can call home for support. But the most effective, obviously, is knowledge management solution, and we're working with. We've integrated a specific knowledge management provider for service, so that the engineers, where they brought their books with them, or had the boot of the car full of books. Now it's sort of included in the app, and they can browse and search or chat to colleagues when they need support. At the end of the day, it's engineers, so they like finding faults, and they need help. They always don't want to call mom to tell them what to do. Many of them still want to try and find the solution on their own.
But not every, or not all of those technicians are pro. Some are come directly from training, or it's effectively a new product. So how apart from trial and error, how do they deal with it using the knowledge management?
I mean, it starts with that when we log the when sort of you log the fault description in the product, you can already send them the related knowledge assets attached to the ticket. That this is obviously one topic. The other is obviously when they're on site, they can search for it, and the search might include as well links to videos, etc., which helps them. This is how we typically work. What we can do for let's say for lower skilled stuff, especially at the beginning, we can work with checklists. So when you have, this is very common for when you have maintenance. I mean, the maintenance is always the same procedure. You do it with checklists, so you don't forget anything. Or you can have guided workflows, like if that error code appears, please try that. If that helps, then do this, which is really a guided workflow.
Rolf, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, that was just in the flow, in finding it a bit tricky, being sometimes in the situation that I'm not an educated technician, but I have to manage to repair some stuff, that I'm extremely grateful if I have a guiding light, such as somebody who is coaching me over the system. Your knowledge management is one helping hand. Is it technically possible also through a colleague to get a guidance? Me utilizing a smartphone and a tablet, and with one probably observing the machine, and the other getting his direct advice and help on the tablet?
Yeah, of course. There is, I would say, there is these solutions around. There's many solutions around, which obviously a lot of them sort of came to birth during COVID, when engineers were not allowed going out unless they were in critical industries. So this is when a lot of these solutions came to birth. We typically integrate them.
Okay.
Because this is where our customers' requirements are pretty. Everybody is specific. Everybody has their own opinion on what to do, and we integrate these kind of solutions in, so that for an engineer, for a call center person, it's one workflow.
Okay, fair enough. And the workflow then is, let's say, my guiding guardian angel, not to make mistakes on the customer side, such as if I follow the flow, then everything will work out. And as I have the right tools, it should, at least from the technical perspective, work out to be a success. Now, we said that in old times there were a lot of books, technical manuals one was running around, and also an order form, and you had to sign the order form after you have done the job. And what is the technology nowadays?
Well, technology is all in the app. Yeah, so
All in the app.
As an engine, yeah, of course. As an engineer, you can do cost estimates, proposals on site, because in some, especially in a B2B environment, if repairs are more expensive, then special approval needs to be granted. So that means that the cost estimate needs to be done. Then afterwards, you can if you do it, you can create an invoice. You can send the invoice, send a service report with signatures on site, and some customers even expect the engineer to handle the payment with the end customer if it's in a B2C environment. So all of this is available, and for all of our. I think none of our customers has a printer anymore. This whole paper process is gone. They used to have, but nowadays no longer.
Yeah. So you are a good example of existing and practically taken into transformation, such as you can deliver real digital transformation with your solution. By that example, for instance. What I found when I had the first contact with your company ages ago, when your company founder was still sitting at the table and we discussed some examples, I was stunned by his big smile, such as, well, try us. If you have some washing machines from a very famous brand known, which is trusted for ages in generations, and something happens, you get after the call and you tell them what is the problem. They can tell you the time when they will offer you precisely when they will be at your place. They can give you an accountable round sum, such as this will cost you about this and that. And I was also quite stunned that he said, yeah, and well, it's not that you have just one customer. You can do this in milliseconds with hundreds. Can you elaborate a bit more on that one and how technology has gone further on? Because I found that at that time, which is 7-8 years ago, already really cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've moved to the cloud, I think 12 years ago. So the whole scalability is not news to us, and this is helping us obviously in scenarios like you described. Imagine a Monday morning, 8 o'clock, you're in the service hotline of a household appliance service provider. I think in the UK they get like 400 calls in an hour, and for these 400 calls, customers are not only wanting to to describe their problem, they want to know when the engineer is coming. And this is when the call center is checking our solution for available engineering slots at 400 an hour. So you have a peak demand, and we obviously this is what the cloud is for. It scales to peak demand.
In that example, how many service agents, so call center agent as well as field technicians, does that company have? I mean, with 400 calls,
globally many. Shouldn't tell more. Yeah. Globally they have many, but you can. But I mean, you can select your and for many of our customers, you can select an engineering appointment in self-service as well.
So you utilize a portal as well as one option aside of calling in. So you make it convenient for the customer to choose his channel.
Yeah. I mean, in Europe, for instance, we have a special problem with heating this winter, so I wanted to have a maintenance to my heater. And our customer, unfortunately, my device is not from one of our customers. Can admit here, but because at our customers for maintenance visit, you get an email, and then you can log on a portal and choose when the engineer is supposed to visit you, so you don't have to take a day off just for an engineer coming home.
Like I had when I got my internet connection set up back in Germany. They gave me an appointment between 8 and 4. AM to
exactly.
PM.
Exactly. And at 3:50, they tell you that they're a bit late and will come
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's not
working
our
from
customers.
and working from home is quite hard in a situation where you do not yet have an internet setup.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
But,
challenge.
Yeah. But jokes apart, so there seems to be there is quite a close connection between customer service, so the call center department service in general, and field service. Where do you see that one starts and the other ends? So where does a customer service solution ends and the field service solution start? Is there a gray area or isn't there? Is there a clear boundary?
It's very customer specific. It's very customer specific. I mean, there's industries where sort of 80% of the service requests can be solved remotely, and only 20% sort of an engineer send out. This is where sort of the customer service is the dominant platform, and we just deal with the remainders. But there's the other way around as well, where you can't really do a lot remotely, and the service centers are most of the time they're just taking up service orders.
So if it depends on the customer, that means you're not necessarily applying a one-size-fits-all solution to each of them. You're doing more bespoke solutions. Is that fair to say?
Our portfolio is pretty modular. So we have customers who say, "Well, I have a service cloud from one of the big platform vendors, but it's no good in scheduling," and we integrate our scheduling. But we have others who say, "Well, I need a solution which sort of matches the service process end to end." And in that case, we provide our software from end to end, from customer portals to service partner integration. But that's the normal process. I think the Gartner guys call it composable business. You need to be able to play Lego with the IT software solutions that you have.
Talking about Lego, what's your ICP, your ideal customer profile?
I mean, we love customers who have many engineers, and those many engineers have many service orders a day. So high volume service organizations, because they have the same passion like we have, which is automating, and attention to detail helps in automating. This is where we play our strengths.
And I mean, automating is something that even small businesses would love to have. But where's the main differentiator between high volume and smaller volume? All of them need to be efficient. At the end of the day, they want to stay competitive, or as a business, they want to stay alive.
Yeah, they want, but in a high volume service organization, when you have 3,000 engineers out there, you need to have very much standardized service processes with very much process guidance. You can't really in small organizations you handle like 80%. It's like the 80-20 approach. At the end, you always get the result, and there's some planning how to get there. But in large service organizations, you can't. The trade-off is that you waste too much time, and there's really good benefit of investing in solutions.
I was wondering, when I analyzed that it took a lot of time when I started in more depth to analyze the service part, the call center part in 2013, 2014. It was a quite differentiated world in the field service market. At that time, some players were around which were going for the cloud with some dedicated offerings, you were already there. And a lot of smart solution technology was there at hand. And I was surprised that some of your market champions and around you with some brand names in their background out of Waldorf or other cities, they were trying to get something on the road. There was a big movement around 2013 to 2016 to get something in the service area done. But when it comes to large scale in enterprise or with some tricky stuff, I very often heard your name mentioned aside of some gentlemen around the marketplace of a large software vendor in the cloud. And I was wondering, after I visited your website more or less regularly, what is the story about Newton? I, with great smile, listened to some other famous natural scientists in some other clouds, but I was then surprised to read, oh, there is Newton around. Newton from GMS. So what's Newton? What does he do? Where does he help?
Make the apple fall.
Exactly. On his head.
Aside of that really vivid picture, Thomas, I have now in my head and will not lose for ages. And I just imagine your apple and the apple is falling down on your apple. Then I would ask myself, the marketing approach to something which has directly a positive picture in your head is marvelous. Now, Johannes, it's to you to tell us what Newton is, aside of either getting the apple on the head, or what is he doing in the GMS world?
There's actually a better picture to Newton, if I may change the pictures you have in your head, because if you, none of you is in the UK, but if you take a £2 coin, on the side of it, it says "standing on the shoulders of giants," and that's Sir Isaac Newton. Because he was asked why he could come up with so many great inventions, and he said he was standing on the shoulders of giants, meaning a lot of from Leonardo da Vinci, etc. A lot of great philosophers, scientists, etc. And then it's probably is the better picture than the falling apple to our Newton, because we're
absolutely agreed. I have another positive one. As one of the most sophisticated at pioneer work doing mobile equipments was Apple's Newton. Yeah, it was probably a bit too early to the market, but it was a pathfinder or the lighthouse which came to the creation of the iPhone and other products. Yeah, so what is
it's a very positive
doing?
name. It's a very positive name. Newton is sort of it's a name for our AI and smart services features. I would say features, because what we do is, our passion is to make service processes better and faster, and sort of enable the users better, and sort of have them less time searching for information which they can get better. Which is why I think I explained I gave one example. We use AI to tell the engineer which spare part he's supposed to take with him. Based on the fault descriptions, we train our AI on sort of the historic data that we have from the customer. So based on historic data, we can tell which spare part is required. That's one thing. And one other which is similar useful is that we can tell as well how long the engineer job will take or should take based on historic data, which is, it sounds easy, but if you are wrong with the first job of a day, so if you have 5 jobs and the first one doesn't take 1 hour but 2 hours, and the whole day is ruined. If you want to plan solid, then you need a good planning, or you need good information. So this is the other one, and then obviously together with our partner, we have a range of knowledge management, knowledge injections, I would say, injecting knowledge because call center staff need access to knowledge different than engineers and then customers. Yeah. So we call it our smart services, where we make service better.
Does that collection of knowledge include Internet of Things technology? Machines telling other machines when something's about to break, for example?
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, in an IT environment, a lot of the information is very proprietary. So on a firmware level, the events that pop up there is really proprietary. You need sort of manufacturer knowledge, and then most of the times it's manufacturer software that is aggregating these events. So we come into play when so there's a more granular interpretation of or more aggregated interpretation of whatever this IoT event means. This is when we come into play. We can, on the one hand, we can then sort of suggest what to do best with these messages. Yeah. Do we send an engineer? Do we ask the operator? Is there a remote fix that can be provided, etc.
Talking about data and giants. So the data comes from some systems. Let's call them the giants. Which are the systems that you regularly integrate with to source this data that you need to train you?
So in an enterprise environment, I mean, our software could stand alone, but in an enterprise environment, we always integrate with an ERP software for especially for finance. So an invoice needs to be written, or costs need to be accounted. Material management, spare parts need to be moved, but as well for engineers do time recording, and then they need to be the time recording and overtime records need to be passed to the HR module. So this is all passed into an ERP. This is always key, and in some environments, depending on the type of customer, if they place a lot of effort, or if it's sort of business critical for them, the customer 360 sales and service and marketing on the same cloud, then we're obviously integrating in the CRM environments, because we use the same customer data. Most of the time we have even more customer data than the sales is using, but we're using, it's always the same databases.
Understood. Can you tell a bit about what are your typical customers you work with? The ones you are allowed, brand names, you could name drop to give us a feeling.
Yeah, of course. So, and as I said, we have these. Our target customers are those that have many engineers with many service orders a day. So so we have household appliance. You've described Miele already earlier. One is I think is our longest serving customer. We have HVAC, so heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Similar. So from an engineering perspective, similar profile. Then we have Valent and Stiebel Eltron, so German names, but probably known with different brands abroad. And we which also we have life science medical equipment is obviously very important because they have very, very high requirements on medical equipment. You need to be able to have an audit trail for 10 years of what an engineer has done with that device.
10 years.
Yeah, I was
FDA.
surprised. I honestly was surprised. Yeah.
And then there we have. So this is the type of requirements that we like. So we have Roche Diagnostics is a customer of ours, Olympus, and another very nice large American one, which I'm not allowed to mention, unfortunately.
Okay. So this comes to the territories. You are delivering not only in German-speaking Europe or in larger Europe, but you are also in Americas present. And where do you see, for instance, or can you see or experience cultural differences? Such as you mentioned the attitude here in Germany, how we would call a technician.
I think there's cultural differences. At the end of the day, it's still an engineer going out on site, but I think one of my most painful experience in my professional life before GMS was that I rolled out a German customized field service solution to British engineers. So it was totally over-engineered.
Okay.
So I would say the profile of engineers is different from country to country. The process at the end of the day is somewhat similar. The approach might be different, but when I look at sort of at our customers, there's a very big difference between, say, European and American customers. Because our customers are typically global, so we build like a global template for them, and then comes the difference. In American customers, they roll it out to all of the countries, whereas European countries, the European customers, they respect. Most of them, they respect any tiny difference that you have in different countries. So there's a difference between Austria and Germany and Switzerland. So you always do a gap analysis before rolling it out. So this is from a cultural perspective that I think this is the biggest difference. There's obviously advantages and disadvantages from both approaches. The American approach is very fast, whereas the Europeans say that they reflect the local business and so support the local business. Because the worst thing that you want to have is that you lose revenue when you roll out a new software.
But that could kill your mood, such as you sorted and proved that it is working in the countries. Don't they go the approach by asking their customers what they are expecting?
So which customers do you mean? Do you mean the end customers?
The end customer, the real customer, for instance, of the washing machine maker, and having different expectations in Switzerland, in Austria, and in Germany, and they go forward you and say, no, we have to take that into account as well. Or how do they approach the differentiation? In our country, everything is different, so you need to do that. A story I remember very vividly 30 years ago, as my Czech colleague said, Ralph, this can't be done like that. In our country, everything is different.
And this is a typical dialogue which we always have, and to some extent there is differences. There's like business demand is different, or the business model might be different as well. If the business model is different in different countries, then it needs to have the support needs to be different as well. But on the other hand, a lot of the differences might just be because they used different tools. Yeah. So if you've worked with one tool for 5 years and you want to have the new software doing the same, although it might be better, but you have to use it differently. This is where it needs to be a moderated approach. And, this is maybe a difference that that I would say is because we integrate our software typically our own, which has the beauty is on the one hand we know the software, on the other hand we prefer using as much as possible the standard. Whereas if you have professional service organizations, they love selling mandates, so they love differences from country to country. Yeah. We don't like that very much, because in 5 years later on if it's not in the standard, then 5 years later it might create issues, maintenance.
Well, we seem to be talking around the idea of other solutions. We've mentioned Waldorf, and we've mentioned a particular natural scientist. I'll be the blunt American here. Lots of CRM vendors have some kind of field service management module available or sell it separately. Why do customers choose GMS over them? What are you doing so much better? And where can I get some?
You can get it in Paderborn, Germany.
Take your rocket.
That one is good. Luckily not from Bielefeld, because Bielefeld doesn't exist, right?
Yes. Even Marshall knows that it doesn't exist, right?
Yep, he does.
I've heard.
You heard it before. Okay.
I am wondering, with all of the available field service products that there are, how does a bespoke producer of solutions such as GMS succeed? Why are you special?
I think there's two topics. Is from a customer profile. I'm not sure who's listening now, but we never address the IT department, because IT department, they love platforms, whichever brand it is, but they want to have one-stop shop. We always sell, and the selling process is 2 years time. Yeah, from the first look to really marrying. It's like in your private, like it takes up to 2 years time.
Wow.
Sales engagement. We're tested. We're tested really before people engage with us, because our software is used more than 10 years. Yeah, so our customers stick to us longer than 10 years typically. And but coming to the question, what is different? I mean, when we engage with the service department, they have their bespoke requirements. They have their key requirements, and many of them that have come to us are like, the platform does like 60%, but we need the other 40 to really match and improve our business processes. This is when we come in. And as I said earlier, we're modular, so you can still have the platform, and we integrate our modules for scheduling or for managing service contracts. You can integrate that in the platform, so that for a user, they don't realize which software they're using. There's no break between. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite, I now call it, backend system? To integrate with.
Well,
or don't you really care?
Well, we've had now 12 years experience with Salesforce, obviously, which is a pretty good platform. Obviously, in Germany, as Ralf said, we every customer has some of Waldorf around, and many and because SAP is used for a great part of the value chain of a company. So we're sort of the enlargement when it comes to the service. And many manufacturing companies have always a difference of how to address the service, and this is where the production and manufacturing, all of it is addressed with SAP. So this is why we naturally integrate as well with SAP. These are at our key markets. These are two strategic platforms. An upcoming platform which is very interesting for us is Microsoft.
Why
just
upcoming?
have both.
Upcoming for you, or
in an
your
enterprise
team?
environment? I would say in an enterprise environment, field service enterprise environment. I don't see them there yet. But the end to end from Azure to CRM is for me it's a very interesting platform. Unfortunately for us, obviously, I do see still some potential improvement potential in our field service environments.
Talking about technology, so something that we didn't mention at all so far. So what are you using? What are you based on? Are you doing Python on Google Cloud, or what's your technology base as you are a cloud vendor? Do you run your own data center? Your own cloud?
No. We're AWS. AWS. We're using AWS because we don't have our own data center because our customers are global, and if you the biggest one he has, this is where we have this is where we're using the data centers in 3 different continents as well for latency reasons.
In how far do you deal with GDPR and different solutions? Solutions is good. For vendors, there are often problems, but how do you deal with those regulations then? Do they
We
make
deal with it.
problems for you?
I wouldn't say problems. It's a hurdle in the sales process. But I don't think.
Challenges.
Well, no, it's not an opportunity. It's when you have this 2-year engagement, it ties you very much to your customer. Once you've gone through this process, at the end of the day, we do have personal data, but we don't have a lot and critical personal data. Yeah. So we have a name and geocodes. Typically, so this is manageable. Still we're going through cloud approval processes with CIO approval at the end, risk assessment, and all of that. But this, as I'm in sales, whenever a potential customer hasn't taken me to data security for GDPR topics yet, that I know that he's not serious yet. So it's we always have to overcome this hurdle, but we typically do.
So what do you tell your customers then? I mean, AWS is the epitome of risk for compliance.
Yes, there is, but as I said, there's a risk, but you need to mitigate the risk. And we tell all of the risk mitigations that we have. It's based in, the data is physically located typically for German customers. It's typically for European customers. It's typically located in Europe. In Frankfurt. It's managed on a need-to-know basis. Many of our software elements sort of delete data anyway after 3 months, and then we have the whole sort of security layer on top to make sure that the data cannot get lost. So all of these mitigations is then typically sufficient for a CIO to accept this risk.
How do you deal with multiple data centers, like hot failover, cold failover, so different regions? How are you set up there? Or are your customers working then with only one data center in one region?
I need a phone joker for that one.
Well, call it.
Phone a friend.
It's we as I said. I mean, if it's one node, then this is failover anyway.
Yeah.
So this applies for most customers. And if we have if we're in multiple continents, then sort of it's an allocation of countries to data center.
Okay.
typically. Yeah.
Don't want to dig the pit too deep.
And I wanted to go back to a too early question, because I'm always so fascinated about what you mentioned in other, let's say, examples you already gave. Why it is so important to have an own intellectual property on route optimization, and why is this a key differentiator, such as you know what you do when you send them to a place, and you know more than others?
I mean, the route optimization is just one piece of the jigsaw. The whole, I would say, and for the route optimization, we buy data. We buy map data, but the data doesn't deliver you any good decision.
It's simply the visualization which we need as human beings.
Yeah. And we have sort of the algorithms on top of that, which find the best engineer for the job. And you can, and I mean, you can choose which engineer is the best. Is it the one who's sort of there the fastest? Is it the one who's the nearest, but only tomorrow, or is it the one who doesn't have anything to do? There's multiple considerations to be made. And at the end of the day, we turn this into a tour, and this whole scheduling, we fine tune it with customers, because today this dispatching is done by people, and they have some Excel spreadsheets, they have their opinion, they have their experience, and you need to sort of automate it on the one hand, but it needs to be transparent as well. It's not like black box AI. It needs to be transparent. We need to explain why we have suggested that engineer.
Yeah. And that is easier if you know the math and the algorithms behind it. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And I still recall the times when I was working in a technology company, a French one, where they had magnetic planning tables, where the dispatchers really were fiddling around if it comes to a critical issue, and were sorting their teams in new surroundings. It for me, it looked like they are throwing the dice. Who is the winner today? Yeah. So I prefer very much that there are technologies available which are more to the point and to customer smile.
Talking about technology and looking at the hour, which is already amazingly fast, or which has been amazingly fast, that leads me to kind of my usual closing famous last words question type of thingy. So in the beginning, I understood a little that in general, technologies like AR, VR are not, or HoloLens, extended reality, to use another term, are not that exciting for customers, basically. So that leads me to the question, looking into the glass ball, what do you see as the next big thing, do not derogatively put it, the next thing that is coming up for field service? What is the next important step to take for customers as well as for vendors of field service solutions?
I think for customers, and I actually think the Marshall sort of pointed in that direction is the IoT integration, because a lot of the intelligence that is required sits in the device itself. And because I've worked 20 years in an industry which, in the ATM industry, is an ATM. ATMs already 20 years ago, they had they were fully IoT. They had an ATM spits out 2,000 different events, and this is knowledge that you need for a service process.
Okay.
And with that you can fully automate the service process 24/7. So you're not only into a reactive service operation, you can provide an availability service. And this is what I think is the next requirement to truly change field service process. Although I still realize a lot of hesitant customers talking about IT securities and technical stuff, which are obstacles of moving into or transforming the service model. But integrating IoT with field service, for me, this will be a very big improvement.
Okay, so in summary, fully automating it, my bot talks to your bot, and then the drone fixes it.
The drone probably not, but it will reduce a lot of waste. It will reduce a lot of waste of calls where an engineer is not needed. You can remotely fix it, and the engineer will have the right spare part with him, so it's a first-time fix. This is. I can't see the drone. Maybe the drone will deliver a spare part, but this is quite expensive.
Not only delivers it, builds it in.
I look forward to seeing how it develops.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's been a great one. That's been a great one. Okay. So thanks for being here. Thanks for explaining the world of field service to us. Because we are well, not being too pleased with field service agents here, at least in my nape of the world. So I meanwhile tend to either repair it myself or throw it away in the American way.
And from a business standpoint, it's not discussed as much as it should be.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we had the opportunity to have this conversation.
Yes. And it should be repeated, continued, basically. There are so many things that one could do. So again, thanks a lot for enlightening us and our audience.
Thanks for having me an hour talking about my passion. So
well,
our pleasure.
More than a pleasure, and you can have more hours if you want. So, okay, going backstage now. Thanks to everybody who still is there, by the way, and see you next week then in our next conversation, when we, by the way, talk about a potential customer, or with a potential customer. Okay.
Imagine that.
I'll be back then.